Everybody. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and you've got Gas, the morning edition. And if you're watching us right now, you're on your lunch break or what have you, but hey, you're here. You've got gas. You're a gasaholic. So welcome back to Gas, the morning edition. You know, we've got a special edition. It's Wednesday, and I figured, okay, what are we gonna talk about on a Wednesday? Well, we could talk about wheels, we could talk about wheels up, we could talk about wheels down, we could talk about anything that has to do with wheels, but you know what's fun about wheels? The horsepower. The horsepower wars started in the 1950s. And a lot of people say, well, the Olds Rocket 88. Yeah, powerful car for the time. 303 V8 really moved out pretty good. Cadillacs, another powerful car at the time. V8s. Now, Ford still had their flathead in the economy class cars. It was pretty good. Good morning, Marlon. How are you doing this morning? Marlon Mitchell, the Ford guy. And he's going to watch us about when we talk about MOPARs. As a matter of fact, he's worked on my MOPAR, too. But the horsepower started, to me, when MOPAR introduced the Hemi. And the Hemi became the engine to beat at the drags, at Bonneville, all sorts of places. Now, for example, in 1951, Chrysler introduced the Hemi in the Chrysler, the big cars. 1951 was a Hemi, not too bad, 235 horsepower by 1954. That was a lot of horsepower back then. And again, remember, these were brake horsepower numbers, not the current net horsepower number we use today. Brake horsepower, strictly the engine. Now, in 1954, Chrysler entered a special 24-hour endurance run with the 1954 Chrysler New Yorker, a stodgy sedan. Now, it was very square, very upright sitting, very formal seating. You felt like you were sitting in your couch. But this 1954 Chrysler New Yorker set records by averaging over 118 miles an hour for 24 hours non-stop. That is some performance, especially for the time. Not only do you think about the horsepower, but just think about how cars handled back in the 1950s. They did it, and they broke the records or set the records with the 1954 Chrysler. Now, that led to some ideas. And the ideas were, well, let's make a car look more sporty. Chrysler came up with the 300 series of cars. The fastest, most powerful American production model for 1955 was the Chrysler C300. Now, there was a 10-year production run of the 300 letter cars, and each one got bigger and better and faster and more powerful. They were expensive coupes and convertibles, but they put out the power. The Chrysler 300s 1955 started out with a 331 cubic inch V8 Hemi. It had a meager 8.5 to 1 compression ratio. Yeah, by today's standards, that's turbo compression. And a little bit of a racing camshaft added to that. Dual 4-barrel carburetors and hit 300 horsepower. That was an amazing figure for 1955. And the car was fast. It was big. Now, Chrysler didn't waste just their horsepower on Chrysler luxury cars. The 1958 Plymouth Fury, 350 cubic inches. Yes, Chrysler had a 350, guys, in the Plymouths. 305 horsepower in their Golden Commando version. Not too shabby for the Plymouth, and it made it a powerful machine. Now, Plymouth even experimented with fuel injection back in those days, but it was problematic, and they recalled every one they sold, replacing them with carburetors. They got a conventional 4-barrel setup, and if the fuel injection worked as it should have, they would have had 315 horsepower out of that baby. Didn't happen. By 1962, Dodge, Plymouth, had thought the market was going to go to downsized cars. Wrong again. But the Dodge Dart, which was not a compact car in 1962, was downsized, unibody, lightweight, They stuffed a 413 Max wedge between the front wheels, and that 62 Dodge Dart, again, a full-size car by the time it came out, was a powerhouse. Now, the base 62 Dart came with a six-cylinder, 225 cubic inches, and the V8 option list was pretty long. They had different V8 engines, but the 413 was rated at 420 horsepower, making this baby a real rocket ship. Now, they were not the prettiest cars, although I like them, but they were fast, and they set the stage for the super stock wars that were to follow, and stock eliminator. They had a heavy-duty suspension, the body was lightweight, the interior was pretty stripped down, and the Dart 413 was a true muscle car, and guys could go to the drag strip right off the showroom floor and set some numbers. Hi, Eddie Shore. How are you doing? I'm Mike Levy. Welcome to GAAS, the morning edition. All right, MOPAR didn't stop with the Dodge Dart in 1962. They kept the winning ways going, and the Hemi got even bigger and better. The Hemi now. Remember, the big Hemis that came out in the early days were heavy lunks of iron. Well, even the 426s were heavy lunks of iron. But the 426 was a magic number, and that motor would run. It was able to go even better. As a matter of fact, it got so fast, they banned it on NASCAR tracks for a while. Of course, Richard Petty switched over to someone else and made a big enough complaint about it that the Hemi came back, and they kept on going. All right, Dick Landy, Southern California boy, San Fernando Valley High School, or San Fernando High School in the San Fernando Valley. Landy's Dodge, a series of Dodges that just smoked the competition. Now, in the early days of AFX, which was A Factory Experimental, Dick Landy was one of its superstars. He altered the wheelbases, shortened the wheelbase, lengthened the front wheelbase, moved the front wheels forward, moved the rear wheels forward, injected the Hemi, and a series of Landy's Dodges just terrorized the tracks. Now, the Dodge Coronet, the Plymouth Belvedere, pretty much the same car, were terrors on the drag strip. And Chrysler introduced the race Hemi for 1964. In 65, they went a step further and produced a handful of altered wheelbase Plymouths and Dodges for professional racers in the new FX class. That's factory experimental. Now, that morphed into what became funny car because these cars became exciting. Wheels up racing cars, fuel injected. Then they went to superchargers. These things were bad. As a matter of fact, the first car Dodge called a Charger was actually a Coronet with a blower. And they had the factory team racing and doing exhibition runs all over the country. Good morning, Steve Jarvis and Ron Olson. But Dodges and Coronets with that Hemi and the altered wheelbase, they moved the whole floor 15 inches forward to put the axle right behind the driver. It helped weight distribution back then. But that didn't stop them. Now, the Dodge Charger came out in 1966, and this was a car that they used to beat the pants off Chevy, Pontiac, and Ford on the super speedways back in the day. The Dodge Charger was a fastback. It was a beautiful car. It was introduced in mid-year 1966, and it was a muscle car in all sense of the term. They had base engines, but they also got that Hemi, and the B-body platform started it all. The Dodge Charger in 1966 was a swoopy fastback based on the Coronet. The original one, the first year, had 4 bucket seats. In 67, they switched to a bench seat in the rear. They're cool. It is one of my bucket list cars. Someday, maybe, who knows? You never know. You got to have goals in life. But that would be and I wouldn't care if it was a Hemi or not, but man, with a Hemi, that baby was tough. Now, most of you remember the Dodge Chargers epitomized on Dukes of Hazzard, and that was a very iconic body style too. And then you add the wing, and the Daytona becomes an exciting car. Now, the original second generation Dodge Charger had an enclosed rear window. It had, the roof did not match the window angle. The Daytona fixed that, and they put a almost flush rear window on the back making the Dodge Charger a fastback again, adding the bed wing and a sloped nose. Now, when NASCAR banned that sloped nose in the wing, Dodge got smart. They took the grille from the Coronet, which was relatively flush, less wind resistance in that concaved grille area of the production Charger, left the Daytona rear window in it. Became a super speedway superstar still. There were more Dodges and Plymouths to come. The Plymouth GTX. Now, this was before the Roadrunner. They took the Belvedere line, dialed the car up, put every option imaginable on it, a couple of scoops on the hood, added a 440 as the base engine, and then a 426 Hemi as the option. This became a muscle car of proportions unseen by anyone else. Well, Chevy SS kind of did all right, but it was heavy. The Plymouth just blistered them. The 440 base, 375 horsepower. You got the Hemi with 426 horsepower. Or 425 horsepower, 426 cubic inches. The Plymouth Roadrunner. Now, here was a car that set the stage for muscle cars of the future. They took the lightweight Belvedere body, the base one, the sedan, not the hardtop. They threw a 383 cubic inch V8 engine in it. Standard transmission was still a 3-speed manual. 4-speed option, 3-speed automatic was an option. And they moved. Denny Sanders learned to drive a stick on a 66 Dodge Charger with a 383 and a 4-speed. And while he had his learner's permit. Wow, what a way to learn. Did you take your driver's test in that car, Denny? Denny's watching us, and his car is featured on the page today. The Roadrunner set the stage because it was light in weight, and you could buy them for under $3,000 from the dealership, and you had yourself a go-fast car right off the showroom floor. The Roadrunner name continued on for many years. Plymouth bought the rights to the name Roadrunner with the logo from Warner Brothers for a reported $50,000. It paid off in the first year. The Roadrunner went down in history as one of the great cars. Okay, 60,000 is what I'm seeing here now. I thought it was 50, but it's somewhere in that number. And the Roadrunner became an iconic name for cars. Now, cars got bigger. Cars got heavier. Ford came out with the Thunderbolt, a Fairlane with a 427 in it. Dodge and Plymouth said, well, wait a minute, we can do something about that. They didn't think it would fit, but the guys at Ram Chargers showed them how a big motor could fit in the Dodge Dart, and they did. Oh, Denny's correcting me, saying the first Roadrunners were standard with a 4-speed in 1968. Torque flight was an option. All right, here's a car that is definitely a tough one to beat at the strip if you came up against one. The Dodge Hemi Dart LO23 option Super Stocker, right from the factory, a white body car. And it was a lightweight. It had the Hemi. It had the Dodge Dart lightweight body. Now, in 1963, the Dodge Dart actually became the compact car for Dodge. Before that, in 1960, when the Valiant was introduced for Plymouth, the Dodge Lancer was the compact car. The Lancer name wasn't really going over real well, and they decided to take the reputation of the performance Dodge Dart and put it into a compact car. Sales skyrocketed. The Dodge Dart got a real new body in 1963. That body stayed in production for the most part through 1966. In 1967, 68, the new body came out, and then 1968, the guys at Chrysler stuffed a Hemi in it, and it became an awesome super stocker. The actual fabrication of the beast was a tough task. They had to assemble a Hemi Dart almost by hand using regular 383 Dart base parts as the bases of the car. And the K member, where the engine mounted in. The Hemi and the 383 and the 440, I believe, used the same mounting. Denny, you'll correct me if I'm wrong here. The Dart engine bay was a challenge, so they ended up with interesting headers and cut out the inner fender well to clear it. They produced 80 cars. None of them were street legal. That's not to say they didn't end up on the street, but the racing teams got them, and they made them work. Now, Dodge didn't want to get left behind with the Roadrunner. They came out with the RT and the Super Bee and all sorts of different versions. And if you saw the Bumblebee stripe on the back of a Dodge, you knew that was a powerhouse. And the RT Road and Track came out the Super Bee. Now, it was Dodge's answer to the Plymouth Roadrunner. Did quite a good job at it, too. But the Roadrunner still has the iconic name. We talked about the Daytona. That set the stage. Excuse me. Allergy season. Now, Plymouth didn't want to get upstaged by Dodge. So when Dodge got the Daytona, Plymouth got the Superbird. Oh, sorry about that, folks. Daytona set the stage, and it was an iconic machine that even today, one of the first stockers to hit the 200-mile-an-hour mark. Denny Sanders says the Hemi K members were different than the wedge cars had. Thank you. Now, for the street, they wanted to epitomize the powerhouse Dodge Darts they were building for the racetrack. So the GTS Dodge Dart came out. And some of the dealers started doing some special options themselves. The Dodge Dart Grand Spalding, the GSS. And here was a dealer-built, Bumblebee striped, high-performance Dodge Dart. The lightweight compact Dodge Dart 383 would just move out. Plymouth didn't want to be left behind. The Barracuda had come out in 1964, the start of the pony car. Now, although the Barracuda came out 2 weeks before the Mustang, no one seemed to notice, and the little Barracuda stayed in the shadows of the very popular Mustang for the time. But if the Dodge Dart could get a big motor, so could the Roadrunner, the Barracuda, and they did. They put Hemis in them, they put 440s and 383s, and the Barracuda got the performance it needed to match its image. We talked about the Superbird, we talked about the Barracuda, and now the CUDA. Now, the CUDA was a term that, guys shortened the name Barracuda to CUDA. Chrysler took that over, and the performance line of Barracudas became the CUDAs. Not every Barracuda is a CUDA. And the Barracuda became a CUDA, and the AAR model was introduced. Now, this was based more on road racing and the popularity of the Trans Am series at the time. The AAR CUDA, American Auto Rate, it's Dan Gurney's All-American Racing Team. The CUDA is a Trans Am inspired car with a 340 small block. They are a very desirable car. Only 2,700 of them were built. Now, back in the day, Hearst, our shifter guys, were producing some specialty cars. And one of the ones they chose was the Chrysler 300, a 1970 special edition, huge Chrysler two-door coupe, and it was the Hearst, and it was beautiful. An integral spoiler in the back, gold and white paint, gold wheels, special interior. It was a beautiful machine. Got the 440 with 395 horsepower. It propelled the 2-ton beast with very respectable acceleration times, but because they only offered the car for one model year, people forgot about it. Find one if you can. The Dodge Challenger, well, the RT version of that. Barracuda got the AAR. Well, Dodge got the Challenger RT, and keeping in line with the Coronets, the Coronets of the time. And the RT became their version of it. Now, in Trans Am racing, the more popular was the Challenger. And you saw Swede Savage and Tony Adamowicz and others driving these cars, and Sam Posey led the charge. They didn't do as well as they wanted to do. They only had one win in their racing series in history, so that went away pretty quick. They did put the Hemi in both the Challenger and the Barracudas and the Cudas later on. And those are very rare cars also that are highly desirable. And they were disguised with these big signs on them that said Hemi, so you couldn't miss them. Yes, Challenger was the AAR equivalent, the Trans Am versions. So Mopar led into the muscle cars and created some of the best muscle cars on the road. It didn't stop, though, with the Cuda, the Challenger, and the early cars. When the Duster came out and the Demon, they had their performance versions as well. The Duster got the 340 wedge, and it was cool. The Dart got their version as well. Plymouth's big car, based on that Chrysler chassis, also got some horsepower as well. And they had some luxury versions of that called the GT. Even the trucks got their version of performance. And the little red truck, a step-side Dodge pickup truck, got upsweep pipes, chrome wheels, and a little bit of performance under the hood. They're cool little cars. The little red truck was a special edition with wood-trimmed short bed body. It was a wild-looking truck. V8s were not the only performance cars Dodge and Chrysler came out with. There was the Shelbyized Omnis, the GLHS, goes like hell, turbocharged, four-door sedans. Now, the basis of that four-door Dodge Omni was Volkswagen. It was a joint venture with Volkswagen. They took that technology and then pumped in a Mitsubishi turbocharged four-cylinder. Shelby did some tweaking to it, different wheels, different interior, better suspension, fog lights, and these babies would go. We've had a few of them come out to Irwindale Drag Strip, and they're shutting down some of the V8s still today. They were definitely sleepers, and they were affordable. 175 horsepower, 0 to 60 in less than 7 seconds, and good fuel mileage as well. Now, Chrysler's performance hasn't stopped. They still put performance into their vehicles, including the trucks. The SRT-10, the cast iron version of the Viper V10, was put in the pickup trucks, and it made it super quick. It also ate up clutches and tires very well. So Chrysler performance continues on. They still have performance cars today, but the history of performance is definitely welded into the history of Mopar. I'm Hot Rod Bob. You got gas, the morning edition. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, special thing. This show not only appears here on Facebook, but it's on YouTube. Join our YouTube pages. Two Tired Guys Productions, GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene, and Talking About Cars. Check them out. The 1,000th person to sign up gets a free Two Tired Guys t-shirt. Check it out. I'm Hot Rod Bob. You've got gas, the morning edition, brought to you by Service Tech Equipment. When you're working on your car in your garage, you got to have the best service equipment around, and Service Tech in Simi Valley provides it to you. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and you've got gas, the Great American Auto Scene, part of Two Tired Guys Productions. Check us out on YouTube and on Facebook.